Once upon a time, in a bustling city, a young woman found herself in a dire situation. At just 24 years old, she had made a reckless decision that would alter the course of her life. She had gambled away 5,000, her entire savings, in a bet she was convinced she couldn't lose. However, luck was not on her side, and she lost everything. With no money left, she was desperate to find a way to recover her losses. Despairing over her predicament, she wandered the streets, her mind racing for a solution. She came across a dimly lit underground casino, the kind of place where fortunes were made and lost in the blink of an eye. Determined to get her money back, she walked inside. As she entered, she was greeted by the sound of shuffling cards and the soft murmur of gamblers engrossed in their games. She took a deep breath and approached a table where a game of poker was in full swing. She had no money left to place a bet, but she had something else. Her long, flowing hair, which she had always considered her best feature. "Do you have anything to bet?" the dealer asked, eyeing her skeptically. "I have my hair," she replied, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "I'll bet my hair." The dealer raised an eyebrow, but then nodded. "All right, if that's what you want, but remember, if you lose, you'll have to shave your head right here," he said. She was shocked, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt a pang of jealousy toward the others who still had their money, but she was determined to win back what she had lost, despite the regret gnawing at her insides. "What do you mean?" "Shave my head?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. The dealer's expression softened a bit, but his tone remained firm. "If you lose, you'll have to shave your head, and we'll record a video of it." She swallowed hard, considering the gravity of the situation. Her long, beautiful hair was her pride and joy, but she felt she had no choice. "All right, I'll do it," she agreed, trying to keep her voice steady. As the game progressed, the tension in the room grew palpable. She played cautiously, her hands trembling as she placed her cards. She won a few rounds, and her confidence began to build. But just as she thought she might actually pull it off, her luck took a drastic turn for the worse. In the final round, she was dealt a terrible hand. She glanced at the dealer, her heart sinking. She tried to bluff, but it was no use. Her opponent, a seasoned gambler, saw right through her. "You sure you want to do this?" the dealer asked, giving her one last chance to back out. She couldn't believe she lost. She wanted to cry and scream, but it didn't work. Her voice was caught in her throat as she looked at the cards in her hand, the losing hand that had sealed her fate. Her heart pounded in her chest, her palms sweaty. She had bet everything on this desperate gamble, and now she had nothing left. The dealer started laughing, a cruel sound that echoed in the room. "We will shave your hair," he said, his eyes gleaming with amusement. "You will shave your hair in front of me, and we will film you." She swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her decision bearing down on her. "Do you really have to film it?" she asked, her voice shaking. The dealer nodded, still grinning. Those were the terms. It's all part of the deal. "Now, let's get started." A barber's chair was brought in, and she was led to it, her legs feeling like jelly. She sat down, the reality of her situation sinking in. The other gamblers watched with a mix of pity and curiosity. As the barber prepared his tools, she felt a lump form in her throat. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered to herself. "Well, believe it," the dealer said, standing nearby with a camera. "This is what happens when you gamble and lose." He handed her the clippers, the cold metal sending a shiver down her spine. "Here," he said, his grin widening. Her hands shook as she took the clippers, the reality of the situation sinking in even deeper. "You want me to cut my own hair?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's right," the dealer said, still recording. "It's part of the deal. Now get started." She looked around the room, seeing the pity in some eyes and the indifference in others. Her heart was pounding, and she felt a lump in her throat. She knew she had no choice. Taking a deep breath, she brought the clippers to her head. The sound of the clippers buzzing filled the room, and she felt the first strands of her hair fall away. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she forced them back, determined not to give him the satisfaction of seeing her cry. "You're doing great," the dealer said mockingly. "Keep going." She glared at him, her anger boiling beneath the surface. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" she said, her voice shaking with a mix of fury and humiliation. "It's just business," the dealer replied with a shrug. "You knew the risks when you made the bet." She continued to shave her head, each pass of the clippers making her feel more exposed and vulnerable. As more hair fell to the floor, she felt a strange sense of detachment, as if she was watching someone else go through this ordeal. "You know," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "this doesn't make you a better person. It just shows how cruel you can be." The dealer laughed. "Maybe, but it also shows what happens when you make bad decisions." Finally, she finished. She put down the clippers and ran her hand over her now bald head, the smoothness feeling foreign and strange. She looked at the dealer, her eyes burning with a mix of anger and determination. "It's done," she said, her voice firm. "Are you happy now?" The dealer lowered the camera, still grinning. "Very happy," he replied. As she turned to leave, he called after her. "Next time, let your hair grow back, then make a bet on it again to shave it." He started laughing, the sound echoing in the room. She felt a surge of anger and humiliation, but kept walking, determined not to give him the satisfaction of a response. She quickly exited the casino, the cool night air hitting her bare scalp. She walked briskly, each step taking her further away from the scene of her humiliation. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions: anger, regret, determination. By the time she reached her small apartment, she was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. She locked the door behind her and leaned against it, letting out a deep sigh. Meanwhile, back at the casino, the dealer was elated. He picked up the fallen locks of her hair and made a phone call. "Hey, I've got something valuable for you," he said into the phone. "How much will you give me for a bundle of long, beautiful hair?" He listened for a moment and then grinned. $500. "Great, I'll bring it over right away." After sealing the deal for the hair, he turned his attention to the videotape. He knew there was a market for such humiliating footage. He made another call. "I've got a fresh recording. Real raw, real humiliating. How much will you pay for it?" He nodded, satisfied with the response. 2,000. "Excellent. Consider it sold." The dealer laughed as he hung up the phone, counting the money he had just made. "This is too easy," he said to himself, thoroughly pleased with the night's profits. The next morning, she woke up with a renewed sense of determination. She decided to take control of her life, starting with finding a new job. She spent hours updating her resume, writing cover letters, and applying for positions. Despite the daunting task ahead, she felt a glimmer of hope. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face the challenge head-on. A week later, she received a call for an interview at a local marketing firm. She dressed in her best outfit, covering her bald head with a stylish scarf. During the interview, she spoke confidently about her skills and experiences, trying to ignore the curious glances at her head. When the interviewer asked about her hair, she smiled and said, "I decided to make a fresh start. It's a reminder of the changes I'm making in my life." The interviewer frowned slightly. "You're lying. You cut your hair in the casino. You're gambling." She was taken aback, her heart skipping a beat. "What? No, that's not true." He cut her off, his tone stern. "We don't hire gamblers." She felt a wave of panic and humiliation. "Please let me explain. It was a mistake, a one-time thing. I'm not a gambler. I learned my lesson." The interviewer shook his head, unimpressed. "We need reliable, trustworthy employees. This isn't going to work out. Thank you for your time." She left the office, feeling devastated. The rejection stung deeply, a reminder of how her past mistake continued to haunt her. As she walked out of the building, she fought back tears, determined not to let this setback destroy her newfound resolve. Over the next few weeks, she applied to more jobs, facing similar rejections. Each interview was a painful reminder of her humiliation, but she refused to give up. She knew she had to keep pushing forward, no matter how difficult it was. One day, she received a call from a small startup company looking for a marketing assistant. The interviewer, a woman named Emily, seemed kind and understanding. "We'd like to bring you in for an interview," Emily said. "Are you available tomorrow morning?" "Yes, absolutely," she replied, feeling a spark of hope. The next morning, she arrived at the startup's modest office. Emily greeted her with a warm smile and led her to a small conference room. "Thank you for coming in," Emily said. "We appreciate your interest in the position." "Thank you for considering me," she replied, taking a seat. Emily glanced at her resume. "I see you have a lot of experience in marketing. Can you tell me more about your previous roles?" She spoke confidently about her past jobs, highlighting her accomplishments and skills. Emily listened attentively, nodding occasionally. "Your experience is impressive," Emily said. "But I have to ask, why did you decide to shave your head?" She took a deep breath, deciding to be honest. "I made a mistake. I gambled and lost. Shaving my head was part of the consequence. It was a difficult lesson, but it taught me a lot about myself and what I want for my life." Emily studied her for a moment before speaking. "Everyone makes mistakes. What's important is how we learn from them and move forward." She felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you. I'm committed to moving forward and improving myself."